Dumela, Saubona, Sakpase, Namaste, Obshin, Dubraota, Assalamu alaikum, Hotep, Buenas noches, bonsoir, good evening, everyone. My name is Doriel. If you do not know who I am, welcome to season 3, episode 4. My conversation tonight is going to be, it's always a little different. This is part of the series called A New Classes in Session, where I speak to educators, inspirational leaders, because we want to sort of think, teach, and learn outside of the box. And my guest tonight is the best person for that. She is not only a colleague, she is also a confidant. And guess what? She is a curator. She's not a curator of necessarily art pieces, but of residential pieces, which she treats as art. Welcome to the digital couch for tonight, and that is Dr. Alison Parker.
Hello there. Good to see you.
Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you to everyone who is popping in. I want to give the protocol that we know to call here on the show, and that is you need two things, at least two things. You need, of course, your mug because there's going to be some tea sipped. You need something to write on or a device to take notes on. And then you also need to do another thing for me, and that is to be part of my stream team. My stream team do two things, well, three things. They share it to people who they like, people who need to know. And sometimes there's someone you like, someone you don't. Sometimes you don't. But it's also that you make comments that are relevant to the conversation. You can add those comments to the stream, and then we will definitely pull them up as they are related to the conversation. And the last thing is if we say something or we raise an issue that you're like, wow, I need more information about that, or you want to ask a question, drop that in there as well. So this conversation is long past due. Long past due. I am here because my dear sister here, who is, yes, Dr. Alison Parker, shout out to the doctor in the house. She has done some amazing things when most people literally ran in a corner, took their coins, took their dollars, and held them tight to their heart. Dr. Parker has written a book, which I literally read this morning. And you will see my page flags. You'll see like highlights and stuff in the margins. And we're going to talk about that today. The book is called Teach, Stack, and Build a Real Estate Investment Portfolio to Build Wealth. I've also dropped the link into, I think, the banner or into the description on YouTube and on Facebook. So please join in and you can get the book. Please get the book. A very, very easy read. I made a very good review. But tonight, we're going to talk to Dr. Parker about that. So, Dr. Parker, please let us know what is happening. How did you get started? This really is like my teacher friend. So, we're going to talk like teachers.
So, thank you for having me, Doriel. I got started in real estate in 2004. At the time, I had a 6-year-old. My daughter's now 25. I packed us up. We had 110 boxes. Packed us up. I was determined as an independent mom at that point in my life to buy us a house. And I wanted something fresh and something new. Could not afford Brooklyn, New York. So I packed us up and we left and relocated to Hampton Roads, Chesapeake, Virginia. And we waited until the house was built. I own a condominium townhouse there. We still own it. And while we waited for the home to be built, I rented for $300 less than what I was paying actually in New York City for more bedrooms. I got 3 bedrooms at that time. So we left our 2-bedroom apartment and decided to go somewhere else and start a new life. And that's what I did. I got a new teaching position. Within 6 months, the home was built, ready to go, and we moved in. So I thought that I would buy that house, and that would pretty much be my only house, my first and only home, because it was my dream home. We love it. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condominium townhouse, 2 floors, enough space for everything that we needed, a beautiful loft, 20-foot windows, like you name it, we had it. Cute little patio, swimming pool, clubhouse. I felt like
Swimming pool.
we had made it. So
Wait, you had moved on up when you moved in?
we moved on up, right? We did. So fast forward 4 years later, I had surgery to get rid of a problem that I had. and thought that I would just have the surgery. I had it 2007, and I thought that I would recover and go back to work and everything would be good. No, no big deal. That's not what happened. So what happened was I was out of months on medical leave. So drowning in not only mortgage, drowning in credit card debt, I want to say, because I spent the first couple of years decorating my house, um, changed the floors, painted, changed the countertops, everything that I could do, I did do to it. And it was having a blast, living my best life. And I got to a point where I was out of work for so long, maybe 3, 4 months. It doesn't take long to be out of work, to miss a couple of payments, and you realize you have debt that you need to deal with. And so I made the uncomfortable decision to go back to New York City for work. One of my good friends at the time told me about how the union had renegotiated a raise. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just go back to New York, earn some money, and then I'll make my way back to Virginia. But that's not what happened. I actually stayed in New York. I have not returned to live in Virginia since. I returned 4 years later in 2008. So this was during the housing bubble bust. Um, and people across America were losing their homes, losing their jobs, and we were in a recession. And I decided to go back to New York, make money, and that's basically what I did. From 2008 to 2012, I worked after school. I worked Saturday school. I worked whatever I
Numbers.
could. I
That's
even worked
right.
for other tutoring companies to recoup funds to pay off 2 card notes and multiple credit cards, basically, and catch up in all my bills. And in 2011, I made another decision, which was, so between that time during spring break, we would go home, we would stay in the house, and we would be there for 4 or 5 days, and I would return back to New York City. So it's basically our vacation home. And so I decided I wanted to elevate and accelerate the monthly payments.
Right.
uh, it wasn't enough for me just to add an extra $100 or $200 here to the mortgage. I really wanted to, kill the debt. I wanted to escalate the payments and I wanted to increase the monthly amount that I could pay. So I knew the only way to do that was to take the asset and have it pay for itself. And that's what I did. Cleaned out the entire house, put everything in storage, handed the key over to the property manager, and she took over. That was July of 2011.
11. Okay. Right.
By my 40th birthday, September 2011, I approved my first renter. It was a couple, and I'll never forget them because every day, every month on the first, the money was already in my account on the first.
That's
So
what we're talking about. Yes.
I rented it. Basically, the home has been rented since 2011. Fast forward, we've had 5 groups of tenants since. We've had the couple, another couple, 2 siblings, 2 sisters. One lived upstairs, one lived downstairs. So we have a 2 bed, 2 bath master bedroom, one on the first floor, one on the second floor. So it could accommodate a variety of different lifestyles, living
Mhm.
lifestyles. So couples with children, couples without children. Again, siblings. One sister lived on the top floor, one lived on the first floor. They had one bed, had the bedroom upstairs, one had the bedroom downstairs. We've had roommates share the home. We've had couples. Right now, a couple is occupying the home, and they've been there since 2019. So all in all, from 2011 to present, the home has been rented. November 2020, I made the last mortgage payment. So the home cost $171,300. And
Listen, that's amazing.
in less than 15 years, it was paid off. So thank God with the help of the tenant, as well as my second business. So my second business, real estate investing is my first business. My second business is tutoring. Uh, September, I decided to rent the home. In March of 2012, I located a storefront that I fell in love with. I visualized myself there. It's a small 300 square foot space, but it was just enough what I needed to get started.
So wait, I'm going to interject for a second.
Yes.
For those of you who are just popping on, and thank yous because I see people popping in and popping up. If you have questions, you can definitely ask. So just as a little insert, I actually met Dr. Parker. It has to be like more than 20 years ago. 20,
Yes.
25, 27,
Yeah. It was
maybe
pretty near.
about 25 years
Yeah.
ago. And so it definitely wasn't a chance encountering. Actually, just to prepare for this, I was like, when was it? And I'm thinking it said a meeting. And then she's like, well, actually, you drove me home. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't even remember all that. But we had an opportunity. So I don't believe in chance occurrences. Everything is divine intervention. And then it wasn't until like almost 15 years later that we wound up being at the same school and teaching at the same school. So at the moment that she's talking about right now, which is sort of finding this first place about 2011, 2012, we were literally teaching in the same school. And I remember you and I and another one of our colleagues being on the stairwell between the second and the first floor off the main wing, like off the main hall. And you
Okay.
were talking about real estate. And I remember looking at you like, what? Like you have a house in Virginia and then you're going to try to
Oh,
buy
you know
something.
why? I had shipped a package from my house in Virginia, a box from my house in Virginia to the school. So it was addressed from me to me, and that struck a conversation.
There we go. There we go. So, you know what? So watching you grow and watching you do all of the things that you're doing, you went, had to make a shift. You were here, you went to Virginia, you came back. To me, that's mind blowing in and of itself. And so this part, I kind of want to just pause because I want to mention something from the book, because of course we're talking about this book
Okay.
that, and it's about mindset, right? And so where I was looking at you in awe, like I was gawking at you, like, how are you doing how are you doing all that? And so in the book, again, it is Teach, Stack, and Build a Real Estate Investment Portfolio to Build Wealth. It is on Amazon. Please get it. And y'all can check out my review because I read this book in about maybe 2 hours, 15 minutes this morning. And easy, quick read, spaces for you to take notes. But literally it was a real mindset shift. And so I want to just read some of the books that, and some people, if you are familiar with personal development, if you're familiar with what is it, like just mind shift and mindset work, then some of these books are going to be familiar to you. So we have Dave Ramsey, who is a huge guru, if you will, in money management. So Total Money Makeover. Steve Covey, which a number of people know, 7 Habits of Successful People. Robert Kiyosaki, I have one of his original books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Millionaire Next Door, The Millionaire Mind, Stop Acting Rich, Think and Grow Rich, classic Napoleon Hill. If you do not have Napoleon Hill on your bookshelf, get it. And Wealth Choice by Dennis Kimbrough. Shout out to the brother. And Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. So part of this, when I was just gawking at you, is because the mindset that you had at such a, and clearly we were younger, at a young age, pushed, like it seemed like your back was against the wall, which is what made you sort of say, this is the only option.
Yes, people were losing their homes, and I did not want to become behind in my mortgage payments. So I put my pride in my back pocket. I packed up my bags, and I stayed for a short while with one of my siblings, and then we got a place after 2 weeks of working back in New York City.
Hmm.
I put my pride in my back pocket. I am the firstborn child of my mother. I have 5 siblings, and as the oldest child, you do a lot of things first. So first college graduate, first to buy a home. I was not going to lose my home. So I made the uncomfortable decision to sacrifice to go back to New York City to work. My hometown. It wasn't a big deal. I still had access to my house. I wanted to make sure that I still owned the house. So I'm a buy and hold investor. At that point, the focus wasn't on investing. It was just pure survival and making sure that I had the money to retain that home that I sacrificed to get. So, yeah, you mentioned those books that I mentioned in my book because in the course of my travels, going to work, coming home from work, and reading at night, I'm always reading. mindset is everything. If I didn't have the mindset to make the sacrifice, then I might have lost the home.
Hmm.
Um, because I was in debt. I call it to the clouds. I had so many credit cards, so many credit cards. Meanwhile, I cleaned everything up to get the home, but once I got home, I got myself back in debt. That was a big no-no. So yeah, I had to dig my way out of debt. Again, we had two car notes at the time. My husband lost his job. Things were really, really bad at that point. So I made the sacrifice, but I'm glad I did. And because it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Um, in 2012, I said to myself, listen, lady, you're going to be 40. I had just turned 40 years old. When are you going to start living your other dream, which was to have a small business? My goal was to open a daycare center at one point in my life. However, that hasn't happened, but I opened a tutoring center. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That
And I was
really
there for it.
that really propelled the debt snowball.
That's
The
right.
neighborhood received me. Kids came from near and far. One mother referred me to another mother, which
Yeah.
it continued word of mouth. I used to have a teenager go around and pass flyers out for me. I
I
contacted parent
remember.
coordinators at different schools. At some point, my tutoring income surpassed my teaching income, and instead of and instead of doing some of the stereotypical things that we do as women, buying expensive things that we really shouldn't buy. My focus was on the debt snowball, getting rid of the debt, and then taking the money that I was earning and turning that money into more money. So once my daughter started applying to colleges, I realized that the tuition was not expensive. It was the dorm fees, which led me to my next journey, which I thought, well, if I could get Nia in school and pay the dorm fees for whatever the required amount of time was, the next move would be to try to get a place for Nia to either share with roommates or to just live in herself. So, long story short, there was a mandatory 2-year minimum that students had to live on campus. So that led me to look for other places that Nia could live. And that's what led me to learn about all the beautiful properties for sale upstate New York. So Albany, New York, Rochester, New York, these places caught my eye.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you also have to figure in, and I kind of know part of this story, but for the audience, her traveling from the location that she was residing in off campus to campus, because some parents, and I'm one of them, was concerned about, how far is my child going to be off campus? Is there transportation? If you're like in a city, then there's probably, buses, trains, or what have you. But
So
up
Nia
there,
attended SUNY Albany, and part of the reason why we loved that school was it allowed the students to show their school pass on any public transportation, and they could just travel for free.
nice.
So that was not a factor. But what looking for other places for her to live in, I didn't want to rent. I wanted to purchase something small for her to either live in alone or with roommates. When I discovered the plethora of affordable homes, I couldn't believe it. Compared to New York City, which is where I'm from, what you find upstate New York was a treasure trove. And I did not forget about that. So I did the research, and she decided to go to SUNY Albany. But what I decided to do was, because I had already learned about all these other upstate towns, was I wonder how I can get one of those. So I would watch Zillow.com, watch lots of YouTube videos on real estate investing. Again, I read all of those books that are in my book. So your brain can't help but make space for, how can I make this happen? How can I bring this to fruition? Mm-hmm.
So here's another question, because this is the part that's still blowing my mind, because you and I basically I'll throw it out there. You and I basically kind of like made the same amount of money. So I was always thinking, well, this is before you started the tutoring business. And I was so excited. I was there at your opening. Like, I think you actually let me sort of peek in before you opened. We were all so excited about that, and what we were doing just professionally at that time and how we were growing and expanding our certifications and our professional work. And I was saying, well, I, not that I know everybody's pocket, but I was like, how did you take that, let's say the money that you already had this house in Virginia, came back, as you said, teaching and stacking. But I also remember you saying that, yes, you did all the after school opportunities, like what we would consider those who are people who are not educators, the per session. And then you did the summer work and then you did the weekend stuff. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. But again, you were driven. And so when you found this opportunity of what you will stand for and what you won't stand for, just like I had a similar thing a couple of years ago, I was like, no, if we, not that I eat ramen, but if we're going to have to eat peanut butter and jelly for a bit to get this bill down or to stack money for
Make the
this,
sacrifice.
make the sacrifice.
It's
And
temporary.
you
It's
do it.
temporary.
Right. And so I just want to point out for those people who are going to watch this on the replay, this conversation is not just for, and again, Allison and I, we've been in the field, let's just say, safe to say, more than 15 years. Some a little more, right? But at least for 15 years that this conversation, because initially I was like, wow, is this for people who are, let's say, seasoned educators, but not necessarily so, because in essence, what we were making at that time, the way you managed it and the way you manage your own spending is how you were able to, and then you're going to tell the rest of the story of like how you stacked and then you put it to a specific end.
Yes. So if you're interested in real estate investing or entrepreneurship, period, you have to have good personal finance and good budgeting skills. If you do not have good personal finance skills and good budgeting skills, you will not be a successful real estate investor or entrepreneur. You have to earn the money and set the money aside, one for emergencies and two for investing into other things. So my motto is take earned income, active earned income, stack it, save it, and stack it for a purpose. My purpose has been real estate investing. And so, since two things were about to coincide, I paid the mortgage was paid off, I said, as of 11/11/2020. Nia graduated 2021. So, what that meant for the family budget was we would have cash available. What are we going to do with this cash? Again, the tutoring business was bringing in great cash flow. And then the rent from the tenant was bringing in great cash flow. Once the mortgage was paid off, more cash flow. What do you do with the more cash flow? Again, I could have had the lifestyle inflation increase where, I could have went to anywhere and bought anything, but I chose to buy what I call cutie pies. So cutie pies was a name that I heard myself calling properties online as I looked, because I made that a daily habit, like looking for property online, running the comps, comparing what the price of the property was against what the average rent was. And it was very clear to me that I needed to accumulate a few of these cutie pies. Yeah, cutie pies are small properties, which are in move-in condition, and they're largely ignored, forgotten about, neglected by their owners, and they're sitting on Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, or any other site, sitting there day after day, week after week, month after month, being basically neglected. They're ignored by first-time home buyers. They don't look like the white and bright HGTV beautiful homes that we do see on TV. So first-time home buyers don't want them. Larger investors don't want them. So your smaller investor like myself sees them and thinks, well, this is a great opportunity. How can I make this happen? How can I add this to my portfolio? So we've gone from one property to now five properties. And one by one, since 2019, we've accumulated more investment property. So the first one, all the first three One was 45,000. The next one was 45,000. The next one was 46,000. And the last one was 82,000. So all in all, these are pretty affordable compared to, again, New York City prices. And the beautiful thing is, not only are they affordable, they're move-in ready condition. All you need to do is do what I call, in my book there, I call it the 3H model. The 3H model. So get your HGTV lenses on and think about what people respond to, in those last 5 minutes of the reveal. And basically, it's lighting, it's wall art, it's all cosmetic things,
Cosmetic.
cosmetic remodeling that you do just to make it appeal to the masses. And you set it at a price that's not too high, not too low, and right in the middle. And you vet your tenants, you get your best tenants. So I take them through the application process. Zillow Property Manager, you can fill out the information online, create your own username and password, have your own account, upload your pictures, click a button, and then the masses see your pictures and they fall in love. I mean, within minutes of uploading your pictures and clicking activate the listing. I'm telling you, in 10 to 15 minutes, if it looks good visually, which, if you make sure that your bathroom, your kitchen, your entryway are beautiful and those pictures are stunning and you've taken care of paint, lighting, fixtures, and you have a feature wall, you have white cabinets. This is
Right.
what people respond to. Just watch HGT. Whatever people respond to, you know, add that to your portfolio, and you're proud to put your product. I'm proud to put the product on the market, and it's been a game changer for us. I mean, since 2019, we've accumulated four more properties since December 2019. So while COVID was going on and everyone was, when I say everyone, I mean the media was talking about low interest rates and the great resignation, all of these distractions. What I was focused on was accumulation. So when a recession is going on, that's when you want to definitely take a deep dive and figure out what can you do to accumulate investments. It's during the recession that the wealthy capitalize during recessions.
Right. And so now part of this backstory is how you may not necessarily have seen this growing up. And
No,
you talked
no.
about, right, you talked about that in your book and how, like some families, there was stress. There was struggle. There was, everything wasn't glamorous and golden. But you did, as you talked about in the book, you did have some family members that didn't necessarily live with you at the time, but that gave you a glimpse of what was possible and a glimpse of what could be. And then it sounded like you figured out, well, if they can live in that type of a house, and it's somewhere within my network, then I can work my net worth
You
like
got it.
they did. Right. So what kind of lessons did you learn from your family?
Wow, yeah. So, I mean, my dad passed away when I was in the sixth grade. My father had cancer,
Hmm.
and that really took a toll, or a financial toll, on my family because he was the breadwinner. Um, my mom was not educated and not employed, and so you can imagine that struggle. Um, However, my father's from Norfolk, Virginia, by the way. My father's side is from Virginia. So, growing up, my grandmother, my father's mother, I was able to see into her reality, which was she owned a home. She, migrated from Virginia to New York. She became a homeowner. She took us one summer to Virginia to her daughter's house, and I met my aunt Mary, and we lived in her house for maybe a couple of weeks over the summer. And just to see the reality that Black people owned homes was not something that I had seen before. And I want to say it planted seeds. It planted seeds. And I believe that those seeds were so deep rooted, my brain never forgot about them. And so, you go through your teen years and your early 20s, and you're trying to figure out how can you help your family get to this point. And
Right.
so, it was my grandmother. It was also my aunt Mary. And then my mother told me about a coworker she had in 2010. I want to say this was a real game changer because this one made me believe, um, yeah, you could own the house, but then you could also own several investment properties. Her coworker was her supervisor, and she was a Black woman. She owned 5 properties. Her daughter was her property manager, and month after month, on the first, the daughter went to each of the homes to collect the rent. Just to hear my mom say this, it just totally shifted my mind from first time home buyer
Mm.
to, yeah, this is our vacation home that we come to when we are on spring break or during summer break, to wait a minute, we could have investment properties. Whoa, how can we make that happen? And so I know from looking online after she told me the story at pricing. And so there are lots of full homes, less than $50,000 that real human beings are living in.
Right.
And that blew my mind.
Right. So now,
that blew my mind.
so I talk about this, or I started to talk more and more about this, that the prep work before I had these conversations is almost more intense than the actual show because I need to make sure that, I have facts straight or I've done some research. And so actually, Dr. Park and I, we started about what, like 8 o'clock last night. We didn't get off until after midnight, was like after midnight, I think,
Yeah,
11 or something.
yeah.
So we kind of really got into this conversation. And then I actually spent like another hour or so looking at some of these opportunities and properties that she was talking about. And so
Cutie
on the
pies.
pardon?
Some cutie pies.
Oh God. And so when she said that there were houses, like standalone houses
Yeah.
that are like, again, like 45, $50,000, I didn't believe it because I'm thinking, we live in Brooklyn. You can't even get a room for $45,000. But it was upstate. It wasn't in the city proper, but it's not as if you're going to be quote unquote out in the sticks, which is what people think. Oh, if it's not in, Brooklyn or Manhattan or Queens or whatever, that it's in the sticks. But some of these houses, I said, wait a minute. And it is 2023 and it is still possible to, purchase these homes. And so I really started to, just like your Aunt Mary, shift because of what you saw, shifted your mind and the possibility when you talked about this and what we were teaching together more than 10 years ago. And I started, it was a drop in the bucket at that moment. It was a tiny drop in the bucket. And then over time, I've heard other people, speak more about it and from different vantage points. And then seeing a woman similar to me, well, let's just say a similar family structure, at least at that time, I said, and the income and the income, that was another key piece because I've seen other people who've purchased property, but they had, let's say, more than one income, or their income was already, let's just say, in the six figures, but we're talking 15, 20 years ago. And
Right.
so I was like, I don't see it. I don't. And then you kept talking about it. And then we met, I guess, like about a year ago. And you were saying, I think you were right before right before you bought the last one, whenever we had that conversation,
You mean in person?
right, in person.
Oh, that was a few months ago. No, Cutie Pie number 5 was purchased. The five
Okay.
portfolio 5 homes was already purchased.
Okay.
Yes, it was soon after that. I mean, you probably just heard all the excitement because,
You were
um,
on fire. You were on fire.
you know, teaching is my first love, but more and more real estate investing is coming really close.
That's beautiful.
Almost neck and neck, almost. I don't think it'll ever be equivalent, but it's almost there. Like the passion is definitely there. It's the purchase. It starts with looking online and noticing them,
Hmm.
and then when you come back, you think, wait, you're still here? You're still here? So
Like,
I started
nobody's
having
following
conversations
up.
with these properties online, thinking, "Well, you want me to come get you, don't you? You want me to come and get you?" So I figure out how can we get this property? I mean, especially if it's in moving condition, and the properties that I purchased have been largely neglected. And by neglected, I mean, so I'll talk about Cutie Pie number two. Cutie Pie number two, purchased in Hampton, Virginia. Her sister owned it. Her daughter went to Hampton University. Her daughter finished college. She wanted to go back on the other side across the water to Virginia Beach. So they didn't need the condo anymore. They didn't need it. So mom put it on the market for sale. Nobody wanted it. Had brown cabinets, it needed a paint job, and nobody wanted it. Listed for $49,999. I saw it and thought, this is cute. It's so cute. And bottom line is I offered 40, I think I offered 40, my initial offer, 45,999.
Mhm.
45,999. Once I got the inspection report back, we did a little negotiating. It showed that it needed some more cosmetic work, so I offered 45,000. It was accepted, and then COVID hit. So I actually managed that one at a distance, hired someone to go in and start the remodeling process via phone, via text, via FaceTime, via Zoom. Seriously. And
Listen,
then I got a tenant, a military tenant, which is, I actually bought it for um, renting it to military members because I wanted that guaranteed government income. And a sister rented it for 1 year. After she moved out, I rented it to another person who was also in the military. When she moved out, now I'm on tenant number three. So most of these people have 1 year stays in town and then they go wherever else they're going next. So I know the person who's a male tenant who is renting it now for $900 a month. Um, he told me up front that he will be in Virginia for 1 year. Then he has to go back to Kuwait. So I already know that when he leaves, I will rent it to someone else. Before I do that, I'll increase the price $50, get the cleaning lady to come in and clean it, and someone else will rent it after he leaves. It's pretty much, that's pretty much the process.
and so this entire process, which is truly congratulatory. I
Thank
am
you.
still awestruck at it. Some people may think, well, how do I, quote unquote, get my coins together? How do I, where am I supposed to start the process? And of course, when you get the book, you get your little sticky notes like I did, and you be writing in the margins like I wrote in the margins and highlighted. You see literally how this is possible. And so when now that I am let's say part of the older branch of teachers, and I see younger people coming in and coming through. And thank you to the people who are popping on. Please ask any questions. Once again, talking with Dr. Alison Parker, who is my teacher colleague. She is also, though, a real estate mogul. I will call you a mogul because if you own more property than I do, child, you know something I don't know. So, but we're talking about how she took basically her teacher salary. She used she did her research. She used her resources, and now she's having people rent from her. And that's what I think is just amazing. So it's like the new 3 R's. But so how can people really start to do this if they are again like the new teacher, or if they're like we're kind of like towards the end of our tenure,
Right.
if you
Yeah.
will. But especially if you haven't seen it, and so this is why I'm trying to tell this story, because I want there to be more stories like this of, yes, successful educators who, not that they're moonlighting 3 and 4 different jobs, but they're taking what they know. They're taking, as you said, as you spoke about in the book, you're taking your gifts, you're taking your genius, and you're making it work for you. And then you're using that to add your additional money to then place on these properties. But sometimes and I know I'm going to say for a New Yorker who's born and raised in Brooklyn, that I look at, and both of us kind of live in the same area. We look at the houses that are a couple of blocks away and we're like, that's almost $2 million. Or it's a million
Right.
five.
Right,
What
that's
kind of,
outside of our reach. However, once you go outside of New York City, there is a
that's the point.
treasure trove of property. Rochester, New York has been a game changer. My daughter purchased a property in Albany, a 2-bed, 1-bath, 950 square feet for $60,000 cash. Um,
And when did she graduate as an undergrad? Year
May 2021.
2 years ago. So this
May
is now like
2020.
a 22, 23, 24-year old who has her own property in the town that she went to school in.
But she's
And
still there doing her master's now in public health.
right,
Um, yeah. So where you get the money from? So the one thing you want to remember as a teacher is that teachers use glue. So if you have glue, you can glue some money from here and glue some money from here. You take this money, put all the money together,
I
and it
love it.
equals the cost of a cutie pie, which is my original definition of a cutie pie is a property less than $50,000. My last property for 82,000 sort of had me sort of massage the definition to up to 80,000, 85, 100,000 max. But my first original definition was up to 50,000, which I couldn't believe existed. It
I,
couldn't believe it existed until my mom told me that story about her coworker who was working as a supervisor in the mailroom at Norfolk State University. And on the side, she owns 5 properties. Oh, by the way, she owns 5 properties. She lives in one, but then she also owns 5 other properties. And my sister Tracy, who lives in Hampton, Virginia, told me a similar story of a Black couple who lives in one, but they also own 5 other properties in one community. So there are a lot of people investing outside of the urban core. Outside of that, there are plenty of houses for sale, and they're affordable. So what you can do is you can monetize your gifts. I'm a big proponent of monetizing your gifts. Every one of us has a gift, and it's our job on this earth to figure out what is the God-given gift you have and then monetize it. We have some of us have multiple gifts. Think about what gift you have that can solve the problem for multiple people. Why my tutoring business took off? Because I was solving a problem for multiple children. Many children struggle with reading, writing, math. They need help with test prep, you name it. I was dizzy from all the work I was doing, but I was also stacking that cash to make sure that I could deploy those funds for our game. So some of the money, a bulk of the money, once the mortgage was paid off, a bulk of the money came directly from my tutoring cash flow.
right,
As I already said, some months, my tutoring cash flow surpassed my board of ed net income. So what was I going to do with the money? Squander the money? No, my father taught the story: do not squander money. Um, Save your money, invest in a rainy day. So I'm frugal anyway. So that was not a task that was difficult for me. That was quite easy. I would be so excited to look online and settle my nerves to think about now which one. It was about not when, but not what, but when. When will I have enough cash to do this? So cutie pie number two was 45,000. Some of the money came from I borrowed against my retirement funds. All of us have money sitting in retirement funds, and the government micromanages when we can take it, when we cannot take it, what age, what this, what that. Meanwhile, they're using our funds for their gain. I mean, people need to accept this as a reality that you have no control over your funds. But what you can do is borrow against it with a loan, which I've done from the teacher's retirement account, from my MCU credit union, borrowed a loan, and took money from my cash flow from my tutoring business, put them all together, Sometimes you need other people's money. If you're a first time home buyer, I would recommend get yourself a duplex. Rent one side, live on the other side if you're in that kind of community. Or if even if you're not living in that community, spend the 20%, put down 20% to get the FHA and get the multifamily because have the tenant pay the mortgage. Because
So,
then you take your own income and then you work on the net. Then you use your own income to work on the next purchase. Let
right,
the tenant help you. That's one of the advantages of being a real estate investor. Debt pay down, appreciation. Let the tenant help you. While meanwhile you take other funds that you're monetizing and go continue to buy property. Again, undervalued property that's in excellent condition. It just needs to be loved.
right. So I want to introduce a couple of comments. So I'm just going to do something. Hold on a second. So first, shout out to my mom. My mom is always my biggest fan. So my mom says that she's here. Hey, mama. And thank you, mom, also for it. So let me just show mom's comment. Thank you. Yes, mom is here. Then mom decided to be kind and she said, Doriel, it's multiple gifts. I appreciate you. So I'm popping my sister up here for a quick minute. Hey, sis, I had to do that. So I just wanted to bring that last person up because, and I'm shouting you out. I'm just saying I'm shouting you out. She knows what I'm talking about because I wanted my educator friends to come on who also, so in essence, so Alison, I talked to the sister who I just popped up because she's also an educator and she also has a tutoring business. And then I do the same thing. I talked to my sister, and this is my childhood sister, Tren. And she, she has a tutoring business as well. And so I kind of like play both of you in my ear about building these tutoring businesses. And my first out, this is like part of my backstory, and I'll make it super quick. LearnToGrowU, which is my what I call my umbrella business, was started because probably you, Allison, and then my sister Tren, and a couple of other teachers, we were having conversations about, we know that we're teaching the children, but then there seems to be a little bit of a gap between when they leave at 2:20 or 2:30 or 3 o'clock, and then they get home and then their families are trying to figure out what we were doing in the building. And so another sister who I had on last week, who is also a colleague of ours, Aisha Long, we were talking about that as well, like education gaps and sort of what are we doing as educators in order to try to fill that gap. And so LearnToGrowU is Larry's Educational Resource Network, and you and I were part of Childcare World, and so that was a part of it as well, which was trying to just fill in the gaps. And so I've learned over the years that, yes, if there isn't that, let's say, triangular cord, right, that's woven together of home, school, and community, that there will be gaps. And of course, we saw a lot of gaps during the last couple of years when we were in this global shutdown. But even prior to that, how do we as educators not just get locked in? And so when I went like this, it was because of being taught coming into the system, into the deal, well, what we call the DOE here in New York City, that when you get that money that's in your retirement account, let's say the older folk, and I don't know, maybe I was tracked. The older folk were like, don't touch that money. Let it sit right there. Let it grow. And when you retire, but that's if you started at 21 and you did your 25 years before that contract. Those of you who are not in the system, y'all, this may be new, but whatever. If you do your 25 years, some people did 30, 35 years. But then by the time that they left, their quality of life, which is what we're seeing more now, isn't what it was back then. And so how much time do you have once you retire to enjoy doing those things? And so you are a perfect example. Even my sister Tran is a perfect example of someone who, they did their work during the day and then they said, I have a couple more hours in the day.
Absolutely.
I will do my work and I can support some other people and some other families to fill in that gap. And then let me just build it on. And so both of you are like, both of you are in both ears. Like, how can you maximize, again, what you love, what you do very easily in order to make that happen? So we will definitely have a separate conversation about, building and trend. I'm definitely going to probably get you on as well, about, how teachers can build their own, I call it educational support services, because sometimes I think when you say tutor, some people sort of diminish it, but the teachers, we know, oh no, you need us. You need us, because if the children weren't paying attention, if they didn't eat, if they went to the bathroom 3 or 4 times a day, if they was falling asleep, if they forgot their pencils,
If they didn't have explicit instruction,
if they didn't have explicit.
there's so many variables as to why students are struggling. And what I found in my own personal research with my PhD is explicit instruction is lacking. Some of us are not crystal clear with step by step instruction, and so students are lost. Initially, with my business, I launched as an academic summer camp to support students over the summer, to support mom over the summer who needed a break and needed a space for children to focus on reading, writing, and math. That's what I provided in my first many years of tutoring. But then September through June, I offered an after school program. And let me tell you, students would come to after school with their math page ripped out the notebook, no notes, no idea of how to do any of the math.
Right.
I had Brooklyn College students working for me, high school students working for me. Everybody had to support these students who came to after school that had no idea how to do their work, particularly the math. Because what I realized, both as the after school owner of my after school center and in my research for my PhD, students lack explicit instruction. And so if no one is guiding you step by step by step by step, if you don't take the step by step to home with you or after school, we have to start all over with you. And that was the daily norm. I'm going to tell you that.
Right. And actually, that's where I think I tried to fill in that gap. So, little
Mm-hmm.
known fact, when I guess we still must have been together. I think we were still together and smart boards came out. I think smart boards may have just come out, because I remember, that's right. I remember one of our colleagues who just retired, Bacchus, and we were in this conversation and we were seeing this thing put up and we were like, so you mean we're not going to be able to use our chalk anymore? And we were just fascinated by this whole smartboard and Promethean thing. And so I actually launched, I guess you would call it a blog. At this point, you probably call it a blog. And it was called From Smartboard to Kitchen Table. And it was all about how did we, because you and I, we taught fourth grade, how did we teach long division and how it may have been a little different than what families knew, and how to take that in very short, what people would now call a reel or a short on social media, and just to take this video, boop, here it goes, and watch Miss Larry do it. That way, by the time you got home, you could go on to what I guess would be the YouTube platform, and you could see me doing just that, just to try to fill that gap, because we didn't necessarily know what the options were to sort of reach our students. I'm saying clearly, I'm saying publicly, I'm proud of my teacher sisters and my teacher brothers who have filled in the gap, right? Who've stood in the gap. You with Purposeful Learning, your educational support services. My sister Tren with her educational support services down in Georgia. And all the others who decided to step out of the box, right? Because this is a new classes in session, which is thinking, teaching, and learning outside of the box. So that which we were trained in our pedagogical, instructional practices, the words of wisdom and the pearls of wisdom from the older teachers who we were around, who would try to give us some information about how things were done and how it could be done. I found an SRA kit. Do you remember SRA kits?
I sure do. I remember SRA from being a student and as well as being a teacher.
I saw one in the school that I'm at now, and I was like, I have not seen that and I'm okay with saying it, in 5 decades. And I'm so glad that they still exist and someone snatched it from being thrown out and kept it. So these are all opportunities for not only educators to, again, build, and we're going to continue this conversation on other days because we have so much to talk about. For educators to take what they know, to take what they were given 30, 40 years ago, but make it new, make it different. And sometimes making it different isn't necessarily the best thing. It's going back to the old time way. And so teaching, I always say, is a dance. And I think most of us can probably agree that teaching is a dance, because you have to Sometimes you have to dip, sometimes you have to flip, sometimes you have to turn, because the student, the way the book says to teach it, may not work for the way the child needs to teach it, which is why you had purposeful learning.
Absolutely.
Which is why I had, from Smartboard to Kitchen Table, which is why I designed LearnToGrowU, which is why, my sister had her own educational support service, because what they teach us to teach them can literally be flipped. You have to do 180 degrees if that child didn't eat, if that child heard an argument on the way to school, if that child doesn't have the appropriate clothes. They won't hear if they have not been heard and felt and seen. And so this conversation, of course, is two-part. It's how do we sort of take our educational income in order to build our own legacy, right? And it's also to demonstrate to our young people, whether or not we reveal that part, but to say, you're more than just what you're learning here or what I'm teaching you. Yes, you need long division, because when you go buy some cabinets, when you got to go to Home Depot,
one of my favorite stores,
when you got to get like 12 sets of dishes because you got 12 cutie pies, you need to know some of this stuff. So as we're sort of almost coming to a close, not necessarily, what's something that when you were going through this process, and one thing I want to talk about is the school that was turned into a home, the school building.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because I'm still looking at this picture and I'm thinking, how did they turn this place into a home? And then how did you find out all these opportunities in the home? So tell us about that story.
So this school in Rochester was converted into condominiums. I discovered it in 2021. I purchased Cutie Pie number 3 and 4. So Cutie Pie 3 and 4 are like siblings. They're literally in a condominium building that was converted from a school to a condominium building. It has 2 floors. I think there were 38 units. And so when I found it, it was already converted. I made it a daily habit. So I would take a break from my PhD dissertation work and go to Zillow, and I would get lost in Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, daydreaming, fantasizing, creative visualizing, all of this. And this caught my eye. So I would look online in Albany. Then I would put my search criteria in $50,000. I would click condominium. I would click single family house. I would click multifamily, and my maximum was 50,000. And I would look to see what was available. This was a daily habit. So when I noticed Cutie Pie number 3 had the red vintage countertops, it was adorable. And I thought to myself, it was listed for $49,999.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's that one.
That's that one. Do you see the before?
Yes, I did.
The before is in there. So the before is important because that's what caught my eye. What caught my eye was 796 square feet, move-in ready, which just needed paint. The cabinets painted, the walls painted, the faucet fixtures changed in the bathroom and the kitchen. And then you needed me to stage you. What else did you need? And I changed out the appliances, and that's pretty much it.
So one last part that I wanted to share just before we wrap up, and then definitely finish the comment, is getting this book is not just a read and a put down. I literally read this book from cover to cover in 2 hours and 15 minutes. But part of that 2 hours and 15 minutes was me stopping and doing some of the visualizing that Dr. Parker says to do, some of the very action-oriented SMART goal work that was very, very specific, some of the financial mindset that was very, very specific. And I literally have made this my workbook. Again, like this page, I'm definitely going to read from that, like the final quote as we wrap up, because it's stuck in my head again as a teacher. But yes.
I sent you a little note. Did you see my little note?
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
Okay, cool.
Got it.
Yeah. So, Cutie Pie number 3 and 4 are literally down the hall from each other. One is Unit 204, the other one is Unit 206. So while I was wrapping up the remodeling, because I don't do renovations.
You're
I
not
don't do
breaking no
renovations.
walls.
I do remodeling, which means I make a list, I go to the store, and I come back, and the handyman or sometimes the husband takes care of the things on my to-do list, and then within 30 days I try to get the product back on the market for rent. Yeah.
But
So
this
wow.
means you're driving up and back, or like, do you make like a concerted? I'm going to spend a week or a holiday break
So
to do
so
this.
we were living. This was during COVID. So
Oh,
during the time we were teaching at home, May 2021, we were at home teaching. So we packed up the minivan, drove to Rochester, and stayed there.
got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
we stayed through the remodeling, the shopping. We worked from home there.
I love it. So many, listen, so many
We had
people.
the freedom to work from home because we were working from home in our Brooklyn place. We just
Right.
packed up everything and went there to take care of it. And while I was vetting tenants for Cutie Pie number 3, I noticed Cutie Pie number 4 was listed under for sale by owner in Zillow, and I thought, whoa.
Did
I
you like
watched
look out
it.
the door and go
I
like this?
watched it and I watched it again, and I thought, you got to be kidding me. And so I contacted MCU Bank has been my source for other people's money. So if it's not the Teachers Retirement Fund, it's the TDA, it's MCU, it's wherever I can get it, and it's stacking cash. So on those two purchases, yeah, it's important to make money and then just hold it because the opportunity is coming for sure. If you have the discipline and fortitude, the opportunity is coming and you want to be ready for it. So you keep monetizing your gifts, don't spend the money, stack the money. And that's how I was able to get by 2 properties within 90 days.
That is also what caught my eye. I
Within 90
literally.
days. It's only because I was looking. And again, they're not the white, the bright, the HGTV, but that's what I turned them into. I turned them into that.
And wait, you have this quote that says renters should live like owners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I put a product on the market, it sort of looks like it differs from all the other properties for rent. I make sure that my property stands out. And so most people don't stage their spaces. They have the old cabinets. It's clean and presentable, but it's not HGTV. It's not going to appeal to people who we know tune in daily, like myself. I'm an HGTV junkie. And it's the only thing I watch on TV. And I don't just watch it passively. I literally watch and I take notes. Whatever the trends are, I go online, I find them at either Target, Amazon, Walmart for a cheaper price, the cheapest I could find it, just to be able to take the picture to put it in to show my tenant, look, this is what I have. So if you look at my pictures, the Sputnik lights, that was a new trend.
Yeah,
That's what I bought. I bought the Sputnik light. The little pom poms for the living room or bedroom, I put those in. But whatever you say, HGTV is what I do. I use that as my education for staging,
that
and I
is
put in
that
my
is your TV
properties, and
watching.
that's how I stand out against other owners. And none of my properties have ever been vacant for 30 days or more. None of them, not even my first one. My property has never been vacant for more than 30 days. Somebody leaves, they leave, get to it, clean it up, clean it out, whatever we have to do. And I'm telling you, and then we get it rented again. So it's the fun part that I didn't know that I would enjoy. It's property management. The 3 properties in Rochester, I decided I'm going to try this out and save the 10% rather than giving it to a property manager like my 2 properties in Virginia. I'm going to try it out and
Mhm.
see. And so, as long as you put a beautiful product on the market, all of the appliances are either new or in excellent condition if they're used. Because I bought Cutie Pie 2 and 4 have like new appliances. But the other ones I bought, trip to Home Depot, make an order, and I purchased them. But the important thing to remember is once you put a quality product on the market with everything in good working condition, it's just a matter of having like a Rolodex of numbers. Electrician, check. Plumber, check. HVAC guy, check. Somebody to shovel the snow and salt
The
the
walkway.
driveway and to cut the grass. And the handyman, another handyman, in case that handyman is not available. That's it.
I, I think that's
And I can
probably
count on one hand in 11 years, I can count the amount of issues that I've had. And I'm going to tell you, it has not surpassed the number of fingers on his hand. So if you put a quality product, some people rush, they just throw things together. If you go online and look at any one of any market that you're interested in, and you look at properties for rent, you'll see what I'm talking about. There isn't much to compete with. You either have the ultra high expensive, and of course, those are phenomenal. But that's not where most people live. Most people are in the middle somewhere and they want a good quality product. They want to feel like they own it and they want it to look like a model stage home. And so those are the people that I appeal to. So I have excellent tenants that work full-time jobs from a truck driver to a pediatric nurse to a traveling
military.
nurse. So everybody's gainfully employed. I don't have any programs. I've never been slighted for rent money. And all the nightmares you hear are just noise. Those are, I'm sure they exist, but they haven't existed in my world because I am very shrewd about who I vet and allow into my property. So if you do your homework, you do your research, you present a quality product, and you have excellent relation skill, interpersonal skills, and good relationship building skills with people, it's really not a challenge at all. It's quite enjoyable, actually. It's
It
quite
definitely,
enjoyable.
it definitely seems like I want to start to wrap up with this one quote, and it's on page 31,
Okay.
and it is chapter 3, Stack Cash and Marry It with OPM.
Okay.
So I literally I underlined it. I put like quotes around it. So I want to finish with this.
Okay.
So as a teacher, I thought about school, excuse me. As a teacher, all I thought about was earning my W-2 wage income, paying down the mortgage with an extra 100 to 200 more per month, saving for retirement, and teaching on Saturdays or after school to save money for a 529 college savings plan for my daughter. That's it.
Yes.
That's the reality for many teachers. We work hard Monday through Friday. Sometimes we stay later to bring in extra money. We put up with a lot of curricular, and I'll just say other nonsense. Right? Most
Yes.
of us are overworked and underpaid, swamped with never ending demands. And after 30 years, we retire. For too many of us, dead tired and dead broke.
Mm-hmm.
Some have managed to amass a lump sum nest egg, which is probably the only thing I was taught, which will be heavily micromanaged by the government and severely taxed. Some have not saved much at all, and some are on the verge of death riddled with illnesses, living out the last days in despair, lonely and broke, still robbing Peter to pay Paul. When I read that, which is why it's highlighted in all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I literally went to my own budget planner, and I
Mm-hmm.
said, because some people plant, some people water, and then God gives the increase. I've heard similar variations of that,
Mm-hmm.
but because I'm in, still in the building, and
Mm-hmm.
just somebody right before break, we hadn't seen this person, but they were in our building last year. They just retired, and now they're not here.
Mm.
And because I heard it from people who knew and worked with this woman for a very long time, they're like, wait, 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 wait. And I've heard enough of these stories where I'm not looking forward to, oh, I'll retire in X amount of years and then I'm going to go do this, that, and the other. So many
Yeah.
people have said, yes, live your life now. So, I mean, you're on one end of the spectrum where you're like, listen, let's say you're not going to go, let's just say get tea and get totes and do a lot of travel, like extreme travel, going around the world. But because you have a plan, because you have a goal, because you're trying to get down to zero, which is what you talked about in your book so much, getting the credit cards, getting the mortgage payment for the first property in order to do the other stuff. And it's precious to hear. It's pivotal to place into your heart. And then the pragmatism of it, teach, stack, and then build a portfolio. That's it. That's it. That's it. But it's also taking the action. So last thing that I definitely want you to
Massive,
share,
massive action.
right,
Don't
is
just learn and read about. Sometimes we tend to, I know a couple of people, you know, fear interferes with them reaching their goals. We have analysis paralysis.
yeah.
And at some point, you just have to get your proverbial gun and pull the trigger and do it. Do not allow fear to interfere with your legacy. You can't. I don't have any fear.
You
Have I
you
had problems? Have I had problems? Minimal. You mitigate the small problem here and there and you pivot, but you do not have fear. You got to do it. You have to leave the legacy. You have to make it easier for the next generation or they're starting from scratch. And that's what I'm trying to do for my family. That's been my goal, like, and it's doable. We have to be disciplined and self exhibit high levels of self control and just
mhm.
stay focused. And I'm going to tell you, within 5 years, it's doable. People become millionaires in 5 years. It's possible.
It is, and you've definitely shown that it can be done. So I know that you're going to have in a couple of maybe weeks or so opportunities for people to contact you to do this work alongside with you under your guidance. I put your book link within the description of this, so it will show up on all the platforms. And if there is, if how can people contact you so that they can stay in touch with you in order to get support from you, to get guidance, to take a course with you, and to get their own cutie pie.
Okay, well, you can contact me at Purposeful Learning Academy at gmail.com.
One more
You can
time.
contact me at 347-699-3040. That's my business line. If you send me a text message, I'll certainly text you back. I'm open to supporting us because financial freedom is what we're all after, leaving a legacy. We don't want to just work hard, we want money to work for us. I'll read a quote for you, and thank you for reading that part of my book because that part of the book sort of makes me tear up a little bit, but it's so true. Um,
Wait, I'm sorry. And what's the telephone number, the business number again?
347
Hmm.
699 3040. Purposeful Learning Academy at gmail.com.
Got it.
This is a quote from a big investor, Warren Buffett. I'm sure everyone
Mm,
has heard of Warren Buffett.
yeah.
But if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. When I
Mm,
found that quote many years ago, I mean, it resonates with me. And many of us work for a long time, 20, 30 years, and we have nothing, no assets at the end of that work journey. I'm advocating for us to all have some assets, some cash flowing assets that we can call on to help do some work for us so we're not working ourselves to death. As women, we work and we work and we work and we work. and we work and we work and we work. That is to be done temporarily. You to take the money and deploy it to invest in assets.
And that is needed. That is needed. So, folks who are still here, and I really, really appreciate this, you can reach Dr. Parker at purposefullearningacademy@gmail.com. And her business number is listed below 347-699-3040. I am blessed and highly favored for you to be sitting on my digital couch for a new classes in session to talk about your book one last time: Teach, Stack, and Build a Real Estate Investment Portfolio to Build Wealth. It is not just about learning the information, but leveraging it in order to leave a legacy. Thank you so much for joining us. And to those who are still here, make sure you can continue to share this out. If you have any aha moments or other questions, you can actually drop them in either on the YouTube platform or on Facebook platform, wherever this does show up. And I can get the information to Dr. Parker so that she can vet the information and then respond back to you. Please reach out to her at purposefullearningacademy@gmail.com. Make sure you purchase the book. I put the link in the description as well. You can get it on Amazon, and I think I must have gotten my book in about 2 days, maybe 3 at the most. Yes, ma'am?
The business number is, if people want to reach me, if they just send me a text message, I will definitely text them back. We can start the conversation. I would love to support anyone who's interested in real estate investing.
Absolutely. And so on that note, I thank you very much. I will be making sure that we can have more conversations. And this is not the only time that you will see Dr. Parker and I, because we're going to be talking about doing something else on this same topic moving forward, so that you can hear more of our conversations as educators, as entrepreneurs, and growing ourselves as amazing Black women, because we are managing. We are managing, and we're trying to step it up for the young girls and young boys who are following behind us, not just teaching them in the classroom, but teaching them outside of the classroom as well. So peace and blessings. I will see you all on the next go round. Please stay tuned. Keep your notification bell on, because we will show up on Monday night, but every once in a while I'll show up on another day. Love you all. Peace and blessings. It's a Learn to Grow You moment where I plant seeds to help you grow.